Hi, Miss Walsh here. So today we are going to review the key features of the parabola. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly so that the podcast does not end up being too long. So this will, in order for you to learn it effectively, probably require you to pause, rewind a little bit, or maybe pause to fill it in. Okay, so don't panic, but I don't want you to be overwhelmed with the length. So pardon the speed. Okay, so when we have our parabola, our quadratic function, we've got three forms, okay? So this is the vertex form, from which we will be able to state what the vertex is. And remember, the vertex is the maximum or minimum value. This is the standard form. We've already seen the A, B's, and C's all lined up nicely. And then this is known as the factored form, where this alpha and this beta are your x-intercepts. Okay, so let's start with the vertex, and I will jump around the page a little bit just to be stating whatever is easier. You'll notice that the form is x minus h, okay, which means that this has to be of a different sign than is given, okay? So our vertex here is then going to be negative 0.5. Okay, you always change the sign. Negative, but not for the k. Negative 6.75. Okay, so this right here is that value. The axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry is the one that splits the parabola into two symmetrical parts. And so that's actually this value right here, right? It's a vertical line with x is equal to h. So go ahead and add that on. And so our equation here is going to be x is equal to negative 0.5. I hope that makes sense, right? It's the x value of the vertex. The vertex always lies right in the middle. Okay, so in order to find the axis of symmetry from the standard form, we have our little equation that you've seen last year, which is minus b over 2a, and that comes from the quadratic formula. And so here, that's our ABC, and so we're going to have minus 3 over 2 times 3, and we're going to have minus 3 over 6, and then we're going to have our negative 0.5. This is 3 times the same equation, so we will be getting the same answer over and over again. Okay, so there it is there. So just make a note for yourself that it's minus b over 2a when it's in the standard form. Okay, in order to find the vertex, we would then take an x value, the input, and get the y value. Okay, so we would have y is equal to 3 negative 0.5 squared plus 3 minus 0.5 minus 6. And again, pause and see if you get to it. But what you should be getting to is negative 6.75 as your y. And so therefore, there's our vertex. Negative 0.5, negative 6.75. Okay, let's go on to the factored form. And before we do the vertex and the axis of symmetry, from the factorized form, what we can right away say is what the x-intercepts are. Okay, so those are 1, 0 and minus 2, 0. Notice again, this is expressed with negatives, so the signs do have to be switched. So that's these points right here. Okay, well, the next task is that axis of symmetry. Well, that will just be in the middle. Okay, so it's the average of the x-intercepts. So for the x-intercept, for the axis of symmetry, what we're going to do is we're going to average out the x-intercepts. So 1 plus minus 2 over 2, and you see what's happening. This is minus 1 over 2. Of course, we get the same, negative 0.5 again, okay? Again, a little note to add as your bubble is that in the factorized form, average out the x-intercepts. Okay, how do we get a y? Once we have an x, we take our expression and we substitute the x value in. Okay, so we're going to substitute negative 0.5, negative 1, negative 0.5 plus 2, and then we're going to get 3 times, this is going to be negative 1.5, and this is going to be positive 1.5. And this is 2.25 times 3, and that is indeed going to be negative 6.75. I'm a little bit out of space, but you can see that the vertex is then again going to be negative 0.7, negative 0.5, negative 6.75. Okay. The x-intercept in the standard form, let's do that one. Okay, so the x-intercepts, the y is equal to 0. So we're going to set that equal to 0. And now either you can use your quadratic formula, and this is all calculator free. This is just pure algebra skill. Or what we're going to do is we're going to divide everything by 3. And maybe you remember your factorizing. Do you remember two numbers that add to 1 and multiply to minus 2? Okay, so multiply to minus 2. So we're going to have two brackets here. And then that's going to be minus 2 and plus 1. And you can see what's going to happen. Ha! There they are. Nope, my signs are wrong. One moment. So plus 2 minus 1. Yeah, because that's going to have to add up to a positive. And so our x-intercepts are going to be minus 2 and 1. Wonderful. Okay, the x-intercepts here are pretty long process, and it basically involves working backwards to the x. First thing you would do is you would take the 6.75 over. Okay, so what we're interested in here is we're interested in this x value. And then we are going to divide both sides by 3. So that dividing by 3 is 2.25 x plus 0.5. Okay, the next step is we're going to square root. Square root of 2.25 is 1.5. And perhaps you remember about the positives and the negatives. And so actually the square root of 2.25 is plus or minus 1.5. And so in our first case, we are going to have negative 0.5. I'm taking this value over right in the front here. So negative 0.5 minus 1.5. And there's our minus 2. And then the second one is going to be negative 0.5 plus 1.5, and negative 1/2 plus 1.5 is indeed our 1. So again, we do end up with the same x-intercept as we already did. Okay, we're almost done. The last process is just the y-intercept, and it's the same process for all three, and that is just, the x has to be 0. So it's very easily achieved in this form, because you can see that when this is 0 and this is 0 and that's minus 6, we can right away see that the y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 6. Okay, how about here? Same process, just put in 0 in for x. And so here we're going to have 0 minus 1, and then 0 plus 2. Remember, we should be arriving at -6 minus 1 and 2. This is -3. -3 times 2 is -6. Excellent. So we've just done the same thing. We've put in the 0, and we're in fact going to do the same thing here as well. Just put in 0 for x. 0 plus 0.5 squared minus 6.75. Okay, so this is 3 times 0.5 times 0.5 is 0.25. Okay, so 3 times 0.25, that's 0.75 minus 6.75, and indeed we get to -6. Okay, so we've done a lot here. We've shown the property, how to find each of the features, the big four they're called, so the axis of symmetry, the vertex, and the intercepts from each of the three forms. Okay, so this will take you a little bit of time to understand and absorb, but don't worry, with practice it all gets there. Bye.